All right, so today is 2 years or a year and a half, somewhere there. No, it's over 2 years now. 2 years in the making. I'm at the point where I'm ready to pull the body off. I think it's going to happen today. Let's see, a few issues that I've dealt with. The steering knuckle was problematic. Comes through there. There it is on the floor finally. And this splined piece fits in a knuckle that's tied to the steering rack itself. And I loosened that up, and I took the bolt all the way out and jacked up the front of the car, and it was still catching. It wasn't releasing. I sprayed it with PB Blast, let it sit for a while, tapped it on the top with the hammer, still nothing. So I went underneath and stuck a large flat-bladed screwdriver between the end of the spline and the knuckle that it was in, and just tapped it. And once that broke free, it was just a matter of working it back and forth a few times to let it slip through that knuckle. Then it has to also fit through a collar that the steering box on the underside of this, there's a collar that shaft runs through, and that collar is fitted to the same bracket that those four steering pedal box things are connected to. But now it's out. And the next issue I had when I was jacking it up was I was finding that the suspension components, let's see if you can, yeah. So the suspension here, there's that bolt running through all the way, and then there's a 19 millimeter nut that sits here. It's in this pocket, and as you jack up the body, it interferes with the bolt and the nut, the end of the bolt and the nut on the end of it. And some people online have said they moved the body back and they moved the chassis forward. I didn't have any luck with that. I used a crowbar and gently pried, and I wasn't getting clearance. So I decided to take the nut off. I was concerned about it. It's a 19 millimeter nut. But Lotus was, Lotus was kind enough to put a little access hole with a button cap. Where are you? Here we are. So Lotus was kind enough to put a little access hole with this little plastic button that goes over it on both sides. And from there you can see you have very good access to the bolt and the nut that was on it. So I threw my 19 millimeter socket on my impact gun, thought I was gonna have a hard time getting it off, and it came right off without a problem whatsoever. So definitely not super tight, and it came off without an issue. I did that on both sides. So yeah, now it's jack it up and see what happens. The Esprit's still hung up on something, and this whole wheel is almost off the ground, which means the body's still picking it up. And when I crawled under here, I realized there's one, it's not even a cross brace, it's just, I believe, to hold in the skid plate. I don't know. But you could see how the chassis, where the body's pulling away from the chassis, except right there. So I think I have to drill out these rivets. So 4 on each side rivets, drill them out, and then I can take this strip off, and cross my fingers, that should be everything that's still holding the frame onto the chassis. So get my drill and drill those out. So that long metal bracket, I tried drilling the holes out from underneath. Didn't have a lot of luck getting it off, even with a little pry bar. So what I did is I got my Dremel out and cut the heads off, and then with a punch, punched the 4 rivets down on each side. And then you still have to go into the car, and I used a putty knife to gently pry that bracket off. 7 of the 8 rivets. Last rivet over here is still intact. I just rotated the bar out of the way. When the body's off, I'll take that bracket off and straighten it out again because it got bent up a bit. All right, finally. So, onto the front of the car. Got my jack there. I'm gonna lift it, start jacking, and see what happens. It should be free and clear on the front and the back, but I guess we're about to find out. Oh, and I'm jacking on the, you can see where I'm holding the underside of the car. I believe it's not an issue to jack there if you're spreading the load across the front like that. When you see people doing these and lifting the bodies off, it's 4 people on each corner picking the body up and carrying it. Those aren't jacking points. They wouldn't normally be, but because the chassis in theory is no longer attached, I don't see any problem with jacking at that central point in the front and the same in the back. It shouldn't be an issue. So all right, you can see that's well off. These lines still have to go through. I could just cut them if I want. I'm not reusing them, but I'd like to use them as a, in case I can't get the actual line pre-bent and all that. If I have to make my own, I want to keep as much of the original shape as possible, so I can use it as a template. So hopefully just be able to lift it up and push those through. We're good here. I looked underneath, we're good there. I jacked up the back and put wood blocks under the 2 bolt points. The fiberglass is really thick there. And the only things that I can see that I still have to address, 2 lines, coolant lines that run through the cabin. So they're down there. They feed through the firewall and then route, I think, over to some of the components over there. So I have to find out where they route to, undo them there, and then I will pull them through and fish them back into the cabin, so that they will essentially stay with the body of the car, I think, and not with the chassis. And I say that because this one has that big insulation in the nut, and this one I'm having a hard time getting access to up there. I mean, I can get it out, and I'll have to get it out eventually, but for now I don't want to deal with it. It's really stuck in there pretty good. So yeah, that's the idea. Let's leave those 2 lines attached to the body. Another thing is the speedo cable over there. I will likely pull that through, and that'll stay with the chassis. And those 2 emergency brake lines over there, I'm not sure about those yet. Not sure how those are coming off. I think they might have to stay with the body, because it's not real clear to me. They're not going to just feed through. Those brackets on the end are too thick, and there's no means to undo it. So I'd have to pull that cable all the way out, and then I could push the sheathing through, or I follow it back, undo it from both of the hubs, and as the body comes off, feed it through so it stays with the body. That might be the way to go, because these don't, there's no means to detach this. You know what? That might actually fit. Let's see that. Yeah, I'm gonna. There's a chance that, actually more than a chance, that will probably fit. If I can get them off this rubber scutcheon, if I can get these off, then I think this should just fit through there. It's gonna be close, but give it a shot. I'd like to save these. One thing that worked on this vehicle is the parking brake, and I'd like to keep them. So if I get them off and I inspect them and they're bad, I'll replace them. But right now, it's looking like I can keep those because they're in decent shape. All right, I gotta get some sawhorses and some wood blocks so I can keep jacking this thing up. Stay tuned. So I don't intend to use the tractor to lift the body off. I will use the jack, but I'm working by myself. So if when I jack it up it were to fall forward or fall to the side, it could be disaster. So the tractor is just my safety net here, in case something goes terribly wrong. So I'll lift it a little bit, just put tension on those lines, and then I'll start jacking the back side of it up. There's two lines that run through the body, coolant lines, and they're still attached. I'm just gonna cut them. I don't want to deal with trying to undo them and fish them through. All the lines are getting replaced anyway, so I'm just gonna cut them, make things easier. All right, so you see that metal plate right there? Those two lines right there were connected. I used my Sawzall and cut them down there somewhere on the outside of that plate. So when you look at this now, let's see, the only thing connecting this chassis to the body is the battery cable. That's still got to come off. Okay, looks like that should be pretty easy. Yeah. All right, so next it's up further on the front end until I can get the front end entirely resting on these sole horses, and then I might have enough room of clearance to wheel the chassis out from underneath the body. not going to clear back there. Oh, my back's got to go over here. Bent, but reusable. I'll straighten it out and reuse it. All right, that's it, hopefully. Finally. There you go. There's the body, suspended, and here's the chassis. Long time coming, 2 years to get to this point. You can tell the wheels in the front are new. I replaced the old ones because the rims had to be fixed. I was operating on a spare, although I don't know if I'm keeping them or not. But yeah, there it is. So now I have unfettered access to brake lines, all these hose lines, the suspension components. All this can come apart. Oh, this, by the way, this guy right here, that thing, let's put this right where it belongs. That collar right there is, you can't see that, or I couldn't see it at least. So what I had undone was this knuckle down here. There's a knuckle right here, and I undid that. I did the bolt, and this slipped off, and I thought, oh great, I'm good to go. And I started lifting, and I was still lifting up the chassis, and it was because this collar right here prevented it from going further. Mud daubers, brake lines, clutch line get replaced. Here's the suspension. I can whack that back into place, put the nut on it so I don't lose it. Lines, these radiator mounts are going to come off and get blasted. They're starting to corrode. Hopefully they aren't too bad. They don't look it. I'll check everything out, replace what I need to replace. I don't want to have to do this again, so I'm surprised at how easy it is to turn the wheels by hand. It really is very, very easy. So I could see why they didn't need power steering in this particular year. Not sure what I'm going to do with the steering box, whether it should come apart and be checked. I don't know. I got to look online and see how many parts are involved with it, if it's a simple thing. If I feel that it's degraded in any way, I'll have it rebuilt, but these wheels will come off. These springs, I'll have to get them checked out. I don't know. I'll probably just order new suspension components. Certainly new shocks. Calipers, I'm probably going to go with P&M calipers. So a lot of what you see here is just going to be taken off and not reused. This wishbone will obviously be blasted and reused, and the chassis itself, it looks wonderful. It's dirty, but the galvanized held up really well. I think I can power wash this, and it'll look spiffy. Yeah, really happy. All right, now I've got the challenge of where do I store this? I don't know. These tires are old. Look how fat they are. These are nice sized tires. I love that look. So if you're wondering how the Esprit is held, the body's held to the chassis. There's a bolt here, here, one here, one here, one here, one here. This one, this one, this one, and I thought there was another one. Maybe this one. I don't recall. Yeah, this one too. So yeah, and then the same on the other side. The nice thing I can do is when this whole gets refurbished and starts getting rebuilt, I'll have a place, instead of when I get the engine back, putting it on an engine stand, just mount it right to the chassis, which is ideal. So at the same time, I can be working on the body. When it's all done, pop it on and go for a spin, right? It'll be that easy. All right, time for a much deserved break.